All right, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Dispatches from the Field. We're really in for a treat today, and I'm excited to be able to join and share this with you. If you are brand new to Dispatches, this is a great new program from the Explorers Club designed to better connect our global membership, highlight the incredible work that our members are doing around the world, and give us this virtual opportunity to be able to connect and get to know each other a little bit more. So, here's how it's going to work. If you're not familiar, we're going to kick it off with a featured speaker. Today is Edd Stockdale. I'll tell you a little bit about what he's going to talk about. After the talk, we're going to split up into what we call campfire sessions, which are individual breakout groups. You'll be with a small group and you'll get the opportunity to meet different members, connect with old friends, and our featured speaker, Ed, will be going around room to room. So you have the opportunity to be able to ask questions about his talk and really be able to dig in a little bit further. So without further ado, let's begin. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Edd Stockdale. He's the head of the Finnish Scientific Diving Academy at the University of Helsinki, where he leads advanced training and safety programs for scientific teams working in some of the world's most challenging environments. With more than a decade of experience in dive safety management for remote research operations, Ed specializes in developing and overseeing complex scientific diving expeditions. And we're going to see quite a bit about that today. As an avid underwater explorer, he has contributed to numerous articles, books, and presentations on the science and practice of diving, with a particular focus on the Nordic region. When not teaching or leading absolutely amazing research operations, he likes to be documenting flooded mine systems across Scandinavia and exploring historic wrecks in the Baltic. So, with that, Ed, let me turn it over to you so that we can dive in.
Thank you very much, Brandy, and thank you for everyone for joining today. I'm just going to quickly share up my screen. I hope everyone can see that, and I'll go through from there. So, like Brandy said, my name is Ed. I live and work in Finland and move between Finland and Sweden. As you can tell from my accent, I'm not probably from the region. I'm actually Australian, but this is my background has brought me to this region a while back. So today I'm going to go through a place that's special to my heart. This isn't actually a work-related project. This is my fun time-related project with an extensive team of people. So this is not just all my work. This is an extensive, large group that work towards the documentation of this. And I'm going to talk about the Långban Mine in Sweden. This is an old mining operation that they turned the pumps off in 1972, and it's flooded. And so we do a whole series of diving operations, and it has one of the unique components that the surface you can see on the right-hand image there is the mine today. Well, a few years ago, but it looks pretty much the same. And all the buildings from the original mining structures actually belong to a museum that actually owns the area above it. And then on the other side is what it looked like almost 100 years ago. The image is actually 180 degrees out because I took the drone photo for the wrong angle. But anyway, to give you a quick rundown, so you actually have an idea of where we are, the black box in the middle there indicates the Bergslagen region, which is in central southern Sweden, and the mining areas in there. And this is actually the center of the mining region for Sweden and has been since the 1300s. So all the blue dots that you can see on the image there are metallurgic mines, so metal-based mines, and the red dots are other minerals that are non-metal based, predominantly calcites and other components there. And you can see the concentration through there. Some of these mines are still open, but this is the sort of the main focus of them. There's over 5,000 abandoned mines in Sweden, of which about 2,500 to 3,000 are flooded. So mine exploration is a huge part of the diving community in the region. And it was majorly part of the European trade in minerals. It was dominant from sort of the mid 16th century through the Hanseatic era all the way through till about the 18th century. And then because of changes in smelting, it moved to other regions in Europe, and you can talk into the history of that for an entire another session. Just to give you sort of a quick sort of zoom in. This gives you a satellite image of the actual mine itself, and you can see those scars where the mine workings are. And you can see it's between two lakes, which gives you quite a good indication of how the flooding happened from the groundwater, because a lot of the mining area is actually under the lakes as well. So to give you sort of a quick insight into why we're doing what we're doing and why it's such an exciting area to explore. The mine itself, the mining possibly began in the 15th, 16th century, but they were sort of individual pit miners, like individual landowners would go out and fire their own area to try and get access to iron and other metals, but predominantly iron at that stage. And then it was abandoned until about the early 18th century, and it was restarted under a conglomerate that then took over and started building it larger and larger. And it continued all the way until 1972 when they turned the pumps off. And the really nice thing about this is that if you have a look at the image on the left, you can see it. There's sort of a mismatchy, the light shaded blue area is where the old mining designs were, where they were just basically following the mineral seams as they went, and they were using fire cracking to expand it. As mining techniques became more and more modern and developed towards the later stages, you can see it becomes very, very leveled shafts and elevator shafts up and down. So when you're diving in this mine, you're going through history. So if you dive the shallow levels, the sort of the 21 meters water depth level, the sort of 55 level, you're seeing the sort of 18th, early 19th century mining techniques, and a lot of the artifacts and everything, which I'll show you, are still actually present on those levels. But then as you go deeper, the mining becomes more modern. So when you get to sort of the 75-meter water depth, you start having elevators and powered bands and sort of more related stuff that was later on as the industrial technology developed. And then as you go deep still, it becomes more and more modern, all the way up until the sort of the 1972. And so you've got these distinct different mining techniques. And the image on the right is actually one of the level mine maps. And this comes from the fact that Sweden has a very unique mining law that was established in 1628. And Gustav II Adolf made an edict that all mines in Sweden had to be mapped. So all mining activity had to be mapped. Why? Because if you know what's being pulled out, you know how much to tax for it. And the Swedes are very into tax. And they have been since the 1600s. This actually was the first mine which is still active, was mined was mapped in 1629. And then in the 18th century, it was upgraded more so that geological information actually had to be mapped onto it. What does this mean to us as divers and explorers and people looking to document this area? It means that we actually have maps of all the levels all the way through history through it. So at the moment, we're working off the 1926 maps that we have access to through the open source network. And so this is just an example here. And they're sort of layered down. So they're actually positioned to the surface. You get the surface layer maps. You can see where the shafts start, and then it moves all the way down. So you can kind of work out where you may be going or where you may not be going. Thing is, these maps, were limited by the sort of the surveying techniques of the time. But also the other one is there are rooms that do exist in some mines, not so much this one that we found so far, but there are other mines where there's entire chambers that are not on the maps because they became black money. They disappeared for the tax records. So it makes the exploration like as a guide, but it's very different when you're exploring these to, say, a cave system where you're following the natural flow of water through an underground system and how that water would move through the fissures and the weak points. In the mine systems, you're following man's drive to find more minerals, and you have a map, so you have an idea sort of which direction you're going to go, as it were. And we use these are sort of edited and annotated with the levels for our shallow levels, and divers that are coming and visiting can use the lines, the line guides, and they get sort of an idea if they go down here, etc., what they can find. They're not the easiest to sort of understand, but it gives us sort of a running idea of where you may be in the mine. And the sort of things that you find on the shallow levels, like I said, the artifacts. Here you have train tracks to one of the elevator shafts. You've got an old mining cart that's sitting on the side. This is in the shallow level. You'll see this and visit this on your first dive that you do in the mine if you ever have the luck to come and dive with us. Here's some other examples. This is a slightly deeper level. This is at 36, and they actually were using this to backfill the mine from the deeper, when they were bringing stuff up from the way deeper levels. They actually had an elevator shaft. They run it down, and then they put it into this dumper at the side, and they would just pour off waste ore that they didn't want to take to the surface back through. So the mine is a little bit complicated sometimes because they're backfilling. But you can see these structures, they're super well preserved. The mine is 6 degrees centigrade year round, regardless, all the way from the surface, all the way down to the depths. It warms up at about the 130 level by about 0.5 a degree because of the geothermal effect. But there's very low oxygen level in the water. There's no sort of degradation. And this means a lot of the artifacts exist that still were there back in the day. This is actually an example of that. This is a painting that was done by Joseph Sierakowski. He was the Polish ambassador at the time, but he also had an interest in mining techniques and development in the late 18th century. And he went, and this is called the main mine, or Storgruven, which is the central area of the mine at that time. And this used to bring in, and if you have a look down in the far right there, you can sort of see a horse on a structure. That was the horse driven water pump for the mine. And that is what the pump looks like today. Okay, so that's the structure there. So you can actually see even the pillar to the side there. And then up in the corner over there is the structure, and this is the hanging bridge that the miners were standing on to work, and it's actually there, and you can see the opening above it. My arrow is actually at the slightly wrong point there. It's more down, pointing at the sort of figures working underneath the arrow. That's actually the bridge they're standing on. So these structures exist all the way through the mines. You've got the old chains. This is an amazing room. The roof of this room is at like 35 meters water depth, and the floor of it's at 65 meters. So you've got this huge 30-meter expanse, and they have these chains hanging all the way across that they were using to move equipment, or they had the bridges that the workers were moving across, because workplace like health and safety didn't exist so much in the late like 18th century in the way that it does today in mining divisions. And you've got other regions here. Again, there's some images of the chains and the sort of different shafts you got through. Lots of ladders where the divers are moving up and down through. And some of the chambers get actually very like vast and extensive, and you sort of see chambers like this, which are almost similar to the feeling that you would get in cave systems rather than actual like man-made underground systems. And you can see like a little, maybe it doesn't translate, but like down in the lower corner, there's like a little red dot. And that's another dive team that's moving around 55 meters below this team. And that's their lights, because the clarity of the water is so good in this environment. So that's sort of the shallow levels as we go through. And now what I'm going to talk about is the exploration that we've been doing for many years now. These are the mine maps that go through and the areas of interest. So you have on the left-hand side, you have the local shaft, which goes all the way down to 130. And this is an elevator shaft that the workers used to go up and down to work each day. And they did so until the mine closed. And on the right, you've got one of those older mining sort of structures that I showed you earlier. And then the Bielkis shaft, which goes down. And two of these, this one goes to 130 level, and it goes all the way down. It caps out at 180, though when we hit 160, we're finding it's backfilled. So it could have been, after all the years of debris going down, it's going to be a little less. So we're working to basically push the mine exploration deeper and deeper and deeper. And then we have this whole process where we will go down, we will go and push the line, try and find a relative to the map that where we are. Then we'll go back later on and we'll put more established guidelines in, so if other visitors can come and other teams can work off them, or we can work off them to extend it further. Then we'll also go back and we'll start documenting and taking photos and images. Nice thing about this is we have good logistics. I mean, we have this platform, we have this well-established structure on the entrance of the mine up shallow, but then down deeper in the mine, and also like we have establishment habitats, which I'll show you later on. We have access to gas. We don't have to lump stuff through jungles or up mountains to get to this point. We actually have easy access to it, and it's very effective because of this. The downsides of it are the navigation. And one of the reasons we struggle with the navigation, it's an iron ore mine, so you can't use a compass. So you have to do everything by like approximation of, I think it goes this way, maybe it goes that way. And sometimes you end up going around, you're like, oh, there's a line here. And you're like, oh, yeah, actually, it's my line. I started laying like 15 minutes ago. And then we go through and we do the documentation components of it. And like we said, it's cold, so we're all wearing thermal protection for 6 degrees. The exposure times we're doing can be up to 8, 9 hours at this point until we extend it even further. We all dive rebreathers. We have all the bales. I mean, you can see from the last image, this was just one dive we did, and we had over 100 bale cylinders in the mine for us, and then all the support teams that were working with us in the shallower levels. So setup time and things like that takes a while. Other documentation, we use scoots to get around because we're lazy and for safety reasons. And this is an amazing structure as well. I can talk about these more later on. You have other things like this, and this goes back to the navigation. We used to have a route that went to this that was quite extensive to get around to find it. In our expeditions, this is at 92 meters water depth, and we'd come from behind where the diver was, and we'd go through, and this went through this really interesting, nice area of the mine. And then when we were dropping down the Bjelke shaft that I showed you to go down to the deeper levels, we found this, and we found it. We thought, oh, this looks like the one that we've got over here. That we realized it actually was, and we kind of should have realized it because this Christmas tree remains lying around it that we were actually in a shaft, and we never realized we were in a shaft until that point. More for us, but there you go. So now we get quicker access to this. And what we're interested now, so we've relined the levels all the way down to 110. Basically, we've got a few things in the 110 we're still looking for, but now at the 130 meter level, this is our big operational area. So this is a map of the 130 meter component, and you've got the 3 red arrows. So your bottom right red arrow, the first one is the Bjelke shaft. The red arrow on the other side in the middle that's pointing into like a little sort of divot off the pillar is the Loka shaft. And then the other red arrow that comes in is another shaft. And these are the 3 major shafts that we're trying to link because they're the ones that connect all the depths. And then everything up further to the top left of your screen is areas that we can't get into. Like they don't connect to the shallower levels. So we're trying to get through to there. And so the Loka shaft, I'm going to sort of show you a video through here. This is coming down to the bottom of the Loka shaft and the crew elevator. And the reason there's a lot of particulate matter coming down with us is because the shaft is quite narrow. So when we're coming down, we're kind of rubbing the edges of the shaft as we descend. And no one's been down here. A lot of the silt from the upper levels have been pushed down over the years as divers have been moving through the mine. So operating in these depths is always a one-way visibility mission at this point. And this is the steps that go down. Now, this is where the crew elevator, like I said, comes down. And the workers, the miners used to get off and they used to go down to this lower room at the bottom of the steps and wait for the foreman to issue where they were going to work in the mine. And we know this because we've spoken with a gentleman called Bengt, who lives in the village, who was one of the last 5 miners that were working in the mine. There's things on the floor here in the top of you can sort of see a square component on the floor just below that door. That's a playing card that's been left there by the miners from ages ago. And we have this door, and this door is our limiting factor and has been for 3 years. And this stops us from getting into that long corridor I showed you in the 130 image just on the other side. And we've been going down with like, okay, maybe the handle will just open it. And my teammate Phil goes and tries to open it, and it did not open. This was in 2022. This was filmed, and we've spent multiple attempts to go down and try and go down Bjelkes to get into the 130, multiple attempts to go down Loka to sort of think about opening this door. And we finally succeeded in June. So we've actually managed to open the door and swim through and have a look. And it goes into a corridor that just has this train track and it just disappears like beyond visibility and light in both directions. It's absolutely amazing. So the exploration game is back on and we're all looking forward to going back and having a look about it. So to sort of overcome challenges, we also have this. These are our habitats, the infrastructure that we have at the 6 meter for our decompression, because if we're spending time at the 130 meter level, those of you haven't had the training or don't have the knowledge of it, sort of 2 minutes at 130 meters is about 30 minutes of decompression, give or take, depending on your algorithms you're running. So when we're down there for 30 minutes, we end up with maybe 6 to 8 hours of runtime. And sitting at 6 meters really cold is boring and cold. So we climb into these air-filled bells that are against the roof. The green one on the left is our super fancy one. It can sit 4 divers comfortably, and it does have our underwater cinema system, so we can watch movies during decompression. I'm aware of time, so I'm just going to quickly blast through. We're also involved in other projects for the museum. We're trying to do video documentation. The museum itself has QR codes all across the different towers, so people can take the code and it loads up a video or a photo of what's below them and tells them 20 meters below your feet there is this, and there's images of the divers. We're now building a virtual reality project with a team of photogrammetry experts to put into the museum so people can have access to that. That's one of the ones we're doing. And then we're also relining and pushing down. So we've pushed line down to the 160-meter level. Now we're expanding the 130 now that we've got these doors open, and then we're continuing to link. And once we've got the links, then we'll put the main lines in, and then we'll go down and we'll start documenting for the museum and the components through there. A lot of what we do, we publish in various magazines and journals. These are just a few of the articles that we've written over the years. We give a lot of presentations on this at different meetings, such as this one, with interested audiences, and we use it in part of our education components as well. So that was just a sort of a very rapid snapshot and insight into the Långban Mine exploration. This is a photo of us sitting in our bell. It has windows, so you can see it's actually an upside down piranha tank that's against the roof. And if you want information on that, you can ask me in the campfire meets afterwards. But at that point, that's where I'm going to leave it. And I hope I've sparked your interest in the Swedish mine. This is an association that is open to divers. So if you are a qualified cave or mine diver and you're interested in coming and diving, please reach out. And we're quite happy. We're always welcoming people to come across and dive with us. There's a minimal membership fee that we to maintain our infrastructure that people pay, and then after that, it's a volunteer-run organization. So everyone's like welcome to come and join as long as you're qualified to. So if anyone has any questions, please ask here, or you can catch me in one of the breakout rooms afterwards. And thank you very much.
Ed, thank you so much. I don't know about everyone else, but I have chills. That was absolutely incredible. And it also just feels like this is really the essence of the Explorers Club, not just the incredible skill of all of the divers, but the way you're bringing history to life and the way that you're really tying it together with the museum so that the general public can shift their perception from an abandoned, filled up mine to everything that is actually below them and really be able to engage them with that. Absolutely incredible. One quick question coming in from Paul, which is, how has the Swedish chapter of the Explorers Club contributed to this work?
There has been no real involvement. The team's multi-national, and we do have of the primary deep team. There are a few of us who are. I'm a member of the Swedish chapter because Finland doesn't have its own chapter yet, and contribute through that. We haven't really found an overlap yet. That's not to say we're not interested. So if there are members of the Swedish chapter here who would be really interested in working with us or having us talk to members within Sweden or the Nordic region, same with the Norway chapter, I'm super happy to discuss that and work. This wasn't really driven from an Explorers Club community to that. It was more that we were naturally explorers and associated with it. So for example, the gentleman that was trying to open the door in the video, he's a fellow of the Explorers Club, but he's part of the British chapter, and some of the other members are involved. And I hope that we get more and more intrigue and develop from there. So
That's a perfect segue into Reese's comment, which I agree with. How has the nearby locals been able to really react, and what do they think about the findings and the footage that you've been able to bring up?
they're actually really friendly. They're quite excited by it. Bengt, who I told you about, he was always interested coming over and having a chat and seeing what we've done. We do give presentations to the museum and the village. They do come across. So members of the association do give a presentation each year. We have a geology day. The locals all know who we are, especially those of us who spend a lot of time up at the mine. And we're always very friendly. They check in and say hello. I think they think we're we're batshit crazy, to be honest. Sorry, I'm not sure about that to swear on. I think they think we're absolutely nuts. Some of the others are really interested. So yeah, that's kind of a, a, a mix. But there's no one that has actively, oh, why are you diving in the mine? And we're quite open, and a lot of museums, like we're part of the museum's display. So when we're there, we have our own big signboard that next to the entrance pool. It's actually in the museum's like brochure, so people can come around, and we have a very sort of not a strict rule, but we really encourage our members to actively engage and talk to visitors to the mine because we are part of the mine. We are very privileged to be allowed to dive in a flooded museum and contribute to it that way.
I think I want to make sure that we leave some time for the campfire sessions, but there's two burning questions that I think are actually really important. One, how did you get started into this? And number two, the burning question that I think is in everybody's mind also is, are there any concerns of collapse?
I'll address the collapse one first. It is a very valid question. I saw it pop up in the meeting chat. No, we don't have a concern in the predominant areas of the mine because it's iron ore and it's on a layer of dolomite. The fact that it's been there, there's two reasons. One is they're very stable structures anyway. They use the actual mineral towers. So those pillars you could see in some of the images I showed you are designed to maintain structure. So that was when it was air filled. With the water fill, you've got the increased like density of the water, which offers support and structure to it. There are areas that are very tight and squeezy where they've built like retaining walls and things like that. We don't go underneath those. Like there are a few areas that we've turned in, we've swum in and we've gone, nope, turn around and we leave it and we mark it. And we have like in the shallow area, there's one area that there is a collapse risk of some wooden structures. And we've basically blocked it off so that we don't have visitors. It's in the 21-meter level. So as soon as we saw that, the line committee that makes the decisions on safety, so we're the most experienced instructors and also divers in the mine, will come in and we'll make a decision and say, no, this is not safe anymore, and we block it off and we put warning signs in the best we can. But it is something you do assess in mine diving. This is not the same for all different mines. It depends on the minerals and the mining techniques that we used in the different areas. So one of the most dangerous mines to be in is coal mines. Because they don't self-support, so they're reliant on wooden structures a lot of the time to hold them up. So different types of mines have different risks. So tin and copper mines, you've got to watch out not so much for collapse risk, but toxicity risk in the water because those metals are highly toxic and dissolve quite easily, and you can end up with different. So when you are mine diving, you actually have to include the mineralogy into the considerations when you go diving, and that's relevant to all mine explorers around. The second one was it how do I get into this in the first
Yeah.
place? I've always been an underwater explorer, like impassioned since I started scuba diving 30 years ago. It's always like intrigued me. When I was initially, I was more interested in the biological components. I'm very interested in wreck diving. I do a lot of wreck work in the Baltic and things like that. And before I moved to the Nordic region, I was quite avidly a cave explorer. So I've done a lot of cave exploration in various parts of the world in sort of more warm waters. So when I moved to Sweden, I was always interested in going mine diving. It's kind of wreck diving in a cave, so it's the best of both worlds. So I followed that, and as soon as I started doing it, I got absolutely hooked. And because I'm a underwater scientist as well, like I work as a underwater scientist and have done for an extensive amount of time, the two go hand in hand, like the exploration and the components of it. I just like the challenge, I think. So that's really, or I
I
am as
definitely
crazy
found
as
the
everyone makes
challenge of
sound.
it. Yeah. Thank you, Ed, for sharing this labyrinthine wonder with us. Really incredible. Everyone, hang tight. We're going to go separate into our own caving rooms right now called the campfire sessions, and you'll be able to talk with Ed a little bit more about your individual questions. All right, hang tight. We're going in.